Louis Vuitton needs no introduction. The world's most valuable luxury brand and fashion enterprise, Louis Vuitton demands a retelling of its glorious history to success, or perhaps a dark one. Now owned by Bernard Arnault, France's richest man, or by other names, the Wolf in Cashmere. They say in Paris that all roads lead to Arnault, and that's by no means exaggeration. Bernard Arnault's luxury group, LVMH, built over 4 decades, now encompasses some 70 brands, many of them vintage French names. Familiar with any of these brands? Each brand has a history of its own and its own distinct image, but all are owned by the LVMH, which functions within this umbrella as a distinct identity drawing from its history from about 2 centuries ago. So, where did Louis Vuitton's journey begin? We'll actually have to go back to 1852, when Napoleon III assumed title of Emperor in France. Napoleon's wife hired Louis Vuitton as her personal boxmaker and packer, and for Vuitton, who was from a long-established working-class family of joiners, carpenters, farmers, and milliners, this gave way for him to get into the class of elite and royal clientele who would seek his services for the duration of his life and far beyond. Louis Vuitton's father, Xavier, was a farmer, and his mother, Caronne Gaillard, was a milliner. Vuitton's mother passed away when he was only 10, and his father soon remarried. As the legend goes, Vuitton's stepmother was as wicked as any fairy tale Disney villain. But Vuitton was no Cinderella, a stubborn and headstrong child, antagonized by his stepmother and bored in life in Angers, decided to run away for the bustling capital city of Paris, and thus began his life of homelessness and hunger. He traveled for more than 2 years, taking odd jobs to feed himself along the way, and staying wherever he could find shelter. Vuitton arrived in Paris in 1837 at the age of 16 to the capital city in the thick of an industrial revolution. After going to work as an apprentice for boxmaker Monsieur Maréchal, Vuitton quickly learned the skills that would enable him to create his iconic trunks and handbags. In those times, boxmakers were in high demand. Their products were essential in the days of long journeys by steamers and horse-drawn coaches. Skilled boxmakers and packers were entrusted with protecting the extremely expensive handmade gowns and other clothing worn by the upper classes, expertly making boxes to fit the items, adeptly packing them to ensure their care. Vuitton had already found his niche, catering to high society at a time when the Industrial Revolution was making people fortunes, while there was still, of course, an enormous amount of poverty in Paris. Just a few years after arriving in Paris, Louis Vuitton had become such an accomplished maker of boxes and trunks that he was appointed official boxmaker of Empress Eugenie, the consort of Napoleon III. Her patronage of Vuitton elevated him in the eyes of high society in England and the United States at the time as well. By the time of the overthrow of Napoleon III in 1870, Vuitton didn't need her patronage. He was well on his way to becoming a household name amongst the well-to-do who appreciated his impeccable handiwork in their trunks and luggages. Vuitton got married that spring on April 22, 1854, left Monsieur Maréchal's shop and opened his own boxmaking and packing workshop in Paris. In 1859, Vuitton had so many orders placed, he decided to expand into a larger shop in Ancenière, a village outside Paris. In 1870, however, Vuitton's business was interrupted by the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War and the subsequent siege of Paris, which gave way to a bloody civil war that destroyed the French Empire. When the siege finally ended, Vuitton returned to Ancenière to find the village in ruins and his shop destroyed. Showing the same stubbornness as he had in his teenage years, Vuitton immediately devoted himself to the restoration of his business. Within months, he had built a new shop at a new address, 1 Rue Scribe. Along with the new address also came a new focus on luxury. Located in the heart of the new Paris, Rue Scribe was a home to the prestigious Jockey Club and had a decidedly more aristocratic feel than Vuitton's previous location in Ancenière. In 1872, Vuitton introduced a new trunk design featuring beige canvas and red stripes. The simple yet luxurious new design appealed to Paris's new elite and marked Louis Vuitton label's modern incarnation as a luxury brand. For the next 20 years, Vuitton continued to operate out of One Rue Scribe, innovating high-quality luxury luggage until he died in February 27, 1892 at the age of 70. But the Louis Vuitton line would not die with its eponymous founder. Under his son, with its eponymous founder, the company's famous Louis Vuitton monogram and future generations of Vuittons. But like many other well-known companies, Louis Vuitton also has a sinister side. Some historians allege that Louis Vuitton worked with the Nazi-installed Vichy regime during World War II. They claimed that the founder's great-grandson, Gaston Vuitton, had instructed the rest of the family to establish links with the wartime collaborator Pétain regime. While all other high-end businesses were focused to close their doors, the Louis Vuitton store in France remained open during World War II. However, the 2,500 busts of Pétain himself that served as tangible proof of the Louis Vuitton company's association with the Nazi administration are what shocked people the most. Gaston Vuitton's son, Henry, was likewise honored by the Nazi-installed French government for supporting the dictatorship. A story that appeared in a renowned publication claimed that the moment the war years were mentioned, the family's attitude suddenly altered, and they went from being extremely helpful to never answering any questions. Down the line, some other dark secrets of the Vuittons came to surface at the beginning of 2019, in which a post claimed that the brand was tarnished because its supposed involvement in human zoos throughout the 19th and 20th century. During the time of global colonization, these were zoo-like exhibits of so-called primitive peoples that were put on display in fairs and traveling shows across Europe and the United States. The ethnological shows, which were more often known at the time under the pseudo-scientific term, came to be considered as a symbol of bigotry and inhumanity that underpinned the imperialist worldview. The memes claim that Louis Vuitton supported exhibitions like these in significant locations all across the globe. However, the post did not specify if the accusation was directed at Louis Vuitton the person, Louis Vuitton the business, or both. Additionally, they did not offer any solid supporting evidence for the claim. This is why no official denial statement was ever given by Louis Vuitton's officials. All that can be said is, human zoos were definitely something that happened in the past, but whether Louis Vuitton was part of it is unclear, but a possibility. Like any major clothing manufacturer, Bernard Arnault's company will never sell every item they produce. Every year, Louis Vuitton burns every unsold product to maintain exclusivity and high prices. Even though there are three main reasons for this practice, it still seems odd to destroy so many products. For starters, Louis Vuitton avoids sales at all costs. They rarely discount anything and want to ensure that everyone gets their product at the same price. So instead of offering discounts, the brand disposes of unsold pieces by burning them. To prevent stock malpractices, Louis Vuitton destroys unsold merchandise. Would-be fashion thieves would be deterred if they had a warehouse full of unsold and legacy merchandise. Likewise, Louis Vuitton loses potential profits because the bags were a waste of time and effort, but it's a price they are willing to pay for luxury. But is Bernard Arnault really selling what he says he's selling? You'd expect Bernard Arnault's brands to produce their expensive high-end clothes and handbags in countries they claim they have them produced. After all, French handbags and Italian shoes are only French or Italian if they're made in those countries, right? Apparently not. But we'll dive into that and the many other scandals and controversies Bernard Arnault has himself tangled in another episode. Until then, thanks for watching and don't forget to like and comment in the section below.